Hello, friends. Welcome to Lead to Gold. I am so thrilled to have you here. Welcome to episode 3. And we are just getting started. So hi, welcome in. Get cozy. Today we are talking about something kind of relevant to the holiday that we're currently experiencing. Now, I don't know that anybody really fully considers Martin Luther King Day to be a holiday other than a federal holiday where some of us don't have to work. Honestly, now that I say that, I don't even know. Is it a federal holiday? I truly have no clue. I'm off today, and my school obviously is not in session. And then my college took MLK Day off, but we always used to laugh about it because it was literally the only holiday that we got off. So anyway, aside from it being a potential quasi-federal holiday where some people don't have to work, I am not sure that anybody does anything for MLK Day, but, we pay respects to the great man. He was a great man. So anyway, we're talking about kind of what I have started to associate MLK Day with, and that is giving back. So, lots of things that I want to go into in this episode today. I hope that you hang around and listen in. Welcome. Happy to have you. I want to start off this episode by talking a little bit about a person who does not know me, but I consider him to be a mentor. Somebody who I have learned a lot from, and somebody who has opened my eyes to new ways of thinking, which I am always drawn toward these kinds of people. Sah D'Simone. Sah D'Simone. He is a spiritual healer. He is a teacher of the SAW method, which is the somatic activation healing. I'm pretty sure I might be getting the A wrong, but it's a form of exercise, in all honesty, that kind of combines meditation and trauma healing and dance. It's if you've never seen him or you don't know anything about his work, watching him teach his classes and kind of explain how it works is really an amazing thing. I mean, imagine a Zumba class, but with a spiritual element where you are chanting and you're singing and you're just going wild and flailing. And though I wouldn't say I necessarily do the SAW method when I am home alone dancing, I don't really think of it in that way. I'm still very much inspired by his work. And beyond that, he has an amazing podcast called The Spiritually Sassy Show, which has taught me so much. So I'm bringing him up to talk a little bit about a theory that he talks about in one of his episodes, which I will link in the show notes for you. But I can't remember the exact name of the episode, but he talks about self-care and what true self-care is. It's yet again an episode that blew my mind because I had never ever thought of self-care as anything other than wearing a face mask, taking a bubble bath, eating chocolate, watching Netflix, whatever. And don't get me wrong, there is absolutely some truth to that. He talks about that too. But one thing that he argues about in this episode is the idea of community care as an integral part of self-care, which I had never thought about before. When I think about self-care, something always felt kind of hollow about it to me. And I think it's because I have always associated the term self-care with the trend of self-care. When I say that, you know what I'm talking about. It's what I just said about, putting on the face mask, eating ice cream. I don't need to repeat myself. You get the idea. That's a trend. And when people do the hashtag self-care, that's usually the kind of thing that they're talking about. We don't see people going out into the world, going to homeless shelters, going to soup kitchens, donating, We don't see that with the hashtag self-care because we don't associate it with that. It's an entirely different thing. In fact, putting it literally, self-care is about the self, right? So before I get too into that, the trend itself, I have a problem with more and more because I saw it turning kind of from this innocent thing, you are literally taking care of yourself. But as social media tends to do, it turns into the clean girl trend or the it girl trend. We see 3,000 facial products that you need to use in your routine every night. We see things that you shouldn't put in your hair. I don't know. All of this stuff turns into capitalism, if you ask me. And it's like a product to sell you, or something that if it's not a part of your life, then you're doing life wrong. But here's the thing, people. We are looking at the wrong things to add to your life. More on that in a minute. The trend itself is not going in the right direction. Don't get it twisted. Taking care of yourself, doing nice things for yourself is so important for your sanity. You got to be a happy, healthy person in whatever that means for you. And sometimes, when your tank is empty, you need to go put on a face mask and drink a glass of wine and watch your favorite show. Do the thing. Nobody is going to stop you from doing the thing if you have the means. Please do the thing. It's going to help you reset and live your life as per usual. But I wanted to go back to the kind of original idea of what self-care is, which I don't think Sa really talked about in his podcast. If you look at ISF.org, which I just recently found out is literally the International Self-Care Foundation, they have a tab right on their main page that asks, what is self-care? Self-care is not a new activity. People have necessarily managed their own health since the beginning of mankind. Throughout human history, the dominant paradigm of healthcare was individual self-care in the family and local community. People sometimes were responsible for their own health and that of their families, as self-sufficiency was obligatory and almost universal. The opportunity and need for improvement were great. Continuing on, circumstances and societies are ever changing. There's a paternalistic approach to medicine that is expensive when applied to entire populations. People around the world are better educated and want more information, choice, and control over their lives, not least in the area of health. The paternalistic approach and health systems that provide sickness services are becoming less well attuned to the 21st century's health challenges and needs. As a result, over the past 40 years, there has been a pushback against the paternalistic model of health toward a more person-centric approach involving self-care. All right, so there's more to it than that, but you get the idea. Self-care is not new. Self-care is something that in its origins were meant to be pretty literal, pretty medical, taking care of yourself. Yeah. And might I also add that self-care looks different in different communities of people. According to an article on Slate called A History of Self-Care, a push to redefine healthcare just beyond treatment of the individual body gained steam within various movements in the 60s. Activists saw that poverty was correlated with poor health, and they argued that in order to dismantle hierarchies based upon race, gender, class, and sexual orientation, those groups must be able to live healthy lives. In turn, living healthily required the involvement of individuals and communities in their own health promotion. Nelson observed there still existed rampant sexism, with the female body widely perceived and treated by medical staff as, quote-unquote, inherently sick, if they were middle or upper class, or, more despairingly, as a quote unquote vector of disease if poor or working class. Now, this takes us even one step further. Martin Luther King literally appears here. Civil rights leaders had made healthcare a priority, with Martin Luther King Jr. saying, "All the forms of inequality, injustice in health is the most shocking and the most inhuman." The Black Panther Party carried this idea forward. Alondra Nelson chronicles the Panthers' efforts on this front in her book, Body and Soul, which opens with the Black Community Survival Conference held in Oakland, California in 1972. A rally, street fair, and block party in which speeches were given and information distributed about the party's free community service programs. Both of these movements, women's, Black Panther, all of it, also coincided with a more niche wellness trend, one that was less about procuring the most basic tools for survival and more about improving one's quality of life. Okay, so here I think is where we sometimes tend to get self-care and wellness mixed up. It was born from a disappointment among doctors and nurses with the ways in which traditional Western medicine failed to address the full needs of its patients. The public's attitude toward those who championed a more holistic approach to fitness, one that pushed for positive health rather than just the absence of illness, was not unlike that toward hippies. Okay, so with all of that, it's a pretty interesting way to kind of intersect all of these different things that were going on, clearly not just in the past couple of years when we've seen self-care as such a trend. So to me, that begs the question, do we need to take a few steps back and reevaluate what self-care actually is? To me, I think yes. Something that struck me about those few articles and pieces that I just read is that the word community comes up time and time again. But it seems that we've lost sight of that. And I do wonder if it's because the word itself is self, you know? Anyway, back to Sa for a second. And I'm echoing his thoughts on this. There is more to feeling like your best self and getting back to feeling your best than simply just taking care of yourself. There is, I believe, this community aspect that we could all do well for ourselves to participate in more. One thing that I wanted to also just mention before we go super deep into what that would look like or what that could look like is the idea that you as a person go through phases and seasons, growing seasons, seasons of death, seasons of rebirth, whatever it may be. And I'm talking in a pretty metaphorical sense here, but we feel this within ourselves, whether we realize it or not, whether you think of it that way or not. I want to be clear that when you are in a rough season of life, when you are in your winter, so to speak, or your fall, things are dying, there's a lot of change going on, things are getting quieter within or without or whatever. It's maybe a rough time for you. Maybe it's just a time where you need to retreat and reflect and be with yourself. That may not be the time that is easy for you to bring your gifts out into the world. In other words, you may not be doing that community service as fully in that time or at all. And you know what? That's okay. One thing that I just really want to stress is that, again, there is nothing wrong with our sort of modern understanding of self-care. It is okay to do the things that make you feel good and that relax you. No judgment whatsoever on what those things are. What I want to try to point out is that when you are in your different seasons, this may look different. When you are in your spring, things are blooming, things are growing, you're feeling really good. Or your summer, things are bountiful. You're kind of on top of the world. You've got your shit figured out for the moment. That is a time and a place where you can use your gifts to better other people's lives. That's the community care. That's the community care. So what are your gifts? How do you know? What are your seasons? How do you know? I don't think the seasons thing really takes too much thought in explaining. Call it what you want. I like that metaphor for myself because I can pretty easily attribute feeling a lot of growth in life with spring, or things are really steady, things are really good, I'm feeling great, I'm mentally here. That's summer. You know? But what I think is a lot harder is establishing, okay, well, what are my gifts? What realistically can I or should I bring out into the world? Where do I fit into all of this? How do I provide for my community? I feel like this is a really hard thing to consider or even to talk about because we don't really think of it in the way that we used to. We're all so disconnected, and I hate to say that because we all see each other on social media. You know, you're here listening to me and you may not even know me, kind of thing. We're so connected and so disconnected at the same time. It's kind of hard to identify who your community is when you're not really involved in one. It gets really weird when you start truly thinking about that. I would take, for example, like the town that I live in or the students that I teach. That's kind of, those are the places I consider my community, right? Your proximity could be your community, or it could just be people that you're friends with. We don't have to overthink the meaning of community. There's plenty of ways to think of it. So, how do you help? What are your gifts? I like using that sort of term, your gifts, as a way to sort of figure out where your place is, or realistically what you can provide for others. In 2020, I felt like there was such a push for everybody to get involved in every single way that they possibly could with all of the shit that was going on in the world. You know what I mean? When COVID was in its prime, you know, however you felt about it, people were counting on you to do your part. However you were supposed to do your part. If something was going on politically, it was almost obligatory for you to post about it or share information about it and, you know, put things out there that weren't even yours. I'm sure you all, you know, if you're kind of in a similar online space as me, it was an echo chamber. And to be honest with you, it was not a healthy one. It was pretty awful. I remember talking with my partner about this at the time, and he was like, I don't want people to think I'm a bad person, but do I really need to post about all of this stuff? Do I really need to share in this echo chamber of information if I only have 100 followers who are already seeing the same thing? And I feel like that was a real problem. You know, it was because you had all of these people saying, if you're not posting, if you're not sharing, you're part of the problem. But in all honesty, he would have been posting the same thing to the same 100 people who had already seen it. And if you ask me, there's just really no point in that. I bring that story up to say that sharing or using a platform wasn't his gift. If I really think about it, it would have been his ability to keep people level-headed or kind of talk us all down from being overly aggressive, overly political, whatever it may be. That was his gift at the time. It wasn't to repeat the same shit that everybody was seeing online. And I'm merging this too with the summer of 2020 when Black Lives Matter came about and protests were happening in every city, every weekend, every day. I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot. And people wanted to be involved, of course. But I think there was an expectation to sort of be involved in every possible way. What I want to try to reframe about that is identify your gifts, identify the ways that you as an individual are equipped to help. Not everybody is supposed to go out and protest. Not everybody has the money to donate. Of course, not everybody has the platform to get accurate information out to people. There's so many ways to look at this. One thing that I tried to identify within that time of 2020 was, okay, I want to be everywhere. I want to help in all the ways that I can, but let's start with what I do for a living. I'm a teacher, right? So I can be a voice for my students. I can try my best to, without getting too political, because in the school setting, that's not a thing to do, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The best that I can try to just allow them to have conversations that will lead them to be better little humans, you know? What I can't do, so long as I have the career that I have, is be somebody who stands on the front lines of any sort of protest and risks arrest. As much as I would like to be more of a physical activist, that's just not something that I can risk. So, you know, we compare the things that I can do, my gifts, with the things that are not realistic for me. You see where I'm going with this? So it's like everybody has their place to be. When I get into it like that, it's really not a complicated thing to think about. But in the past couple of years, I almost feel like we've made it more complicated on ourselves and for ourselves, which is not really doing anybody any favors. The bottom line is, if you don't know what your gifts are, and it doesn't even have to be like what you do for a living, what are you good at? You know, like, are you a good communicator? Are you a good storyteller? Are you somebody who people go to when they're feeling down about their own lives? We play all kinds of roles. Are you the artist that lifts people up and shares the collective's ideas through your art, through your creativity? Beyond that, it could be as simple as, do you have a bunch of clothes sitting in your closet that you don't need anymore that somebody else could benefit from? Do you love to go grocery shopping and wouldn't mind picking up a few things for people who need some things? Do you like shopping? You don't have anybody to shop for? Okay, cool. Like, buy some things for people that need those things. There's like so many things. There's so many things. So one thing I would love to start doing more is thinking of my life and my communities as more of an old-timey community. I don't want to spoil too much, but in my next podcast episode, I interviewed a friend and we talked about living in a town where there is one person who makes coffee, one grocer, one clothing store, and one person who makes most of the clothing, things like that. I think of it in that way. You know, in a typical community, there is the teacher, the storyteller, the caregiver. Thinking of it like really, really, really old traditional style. That kind of helps me a lot. So identify, who are you in your community? And if you don't quite know, spend some time reflecting. What do people come to you for? In that, I think you can find your gifts. And in finding your gifts, you can find new ways to bring them out into the world, which is always a good thing. Wrapping all of this up into the idea of self-care, bringing that aspect into your life is self-care, believe it or not. You're caring for other people, but I don't know about you, I feel a hell of a lot better when I know that I am serving others than when I'm just focusing on myself. It feels a lot better to consider others and really like feel like a part of something than just lone wolfing it. We're not meant to do that. We're humans. I was surprised by this, but in the times of my life where I have felt at my absolute lowest, I'm talking the pits of depression and anxiety, my mind kept going back to wanting to serve and wanting to be a helping hand somewhere, anywhere that I could, anywhere that I had the energy to do it, even if that just meant donating my clothes. That was something that kept coming back to me as, you know, if I participated in this, maybe I would actually start to feel better about myself. But the best part of living in this way too is taking it back to the idea of your own personal seasons for a minute. Hypothetically, if everybody were to think of community care as a form of self-care, and most, if not all of the people in our lives were trying their best in their seasons of growth and stability to provide their gifts, when you are in your season of death and stillness and cold, just keep thinking of winter. You know what I'm talking about. When you're there, somebody else can be there for you. Somebody else can help bring you out of that sooner. And alongside that, you can do the other parts of self-care that are fully for you. Self-soothing, eating that chocolate, watching that favorite show that you love so much, you know, having your cup of coffee in the morning, doing your face routine, whatever it is, like that is still and always there for you when you need it, whatever those things are that bring you comfort as an individual. Don't give that up, please. Don't give that up. Just also consider, when you can, providing your gifts on the side, you know? It's not all about you out here. But you get that. Well, you get what I'm saying. Like, when you need it, hypothetically, somebody else is going to be in their season of giving when you're in your season of need, when you're in your season of needing to be taken care of. Somebody will be there to take care of you. In a perfect world. Do you know what I'm saying? And to kind of just come back full circle, it is MLK Day. I know, though of course I didn't know the man, that this is sort of the thing that he would have envisioned for the world. And I know that this is the kind of mission that he was on, was to give us more of a sense of community with all kinds of people, whether they can afford the atrocious healthcare that we get in the US, or, you know, whether they rely on food banks. I mean, it's rough out here. We got to be looking out for each other, you guys. We have to. I mean, how the hell else are we going to get through all of this? So that brings me to my last bit for today, and I'm a little bit nervous to bring this out, but it feels really right, and it feels like something that I can do right now. I've been trying to be a little bit more flexible with my money and where it goes, and something that I do feel capable of doing at this point in time is giving out some donations. So I have a little favor to ask you, dear listener. Since this is still a pretty new show, I am super duper grateful to get any reviews, whether you like the show or not. I would love to know what you think. Since we're on Apple now, Apple allows you to actually write out a full review, which would be just awesome. Bonus points. And what I'm going to do is for the next month, between today is the 16th, or the day that this releases will be the 16th of January. So from now until February 16th, anybody who leaves a review for the show anywhere that you're listening to it, Spotify and Apple are, I believe, the quote unquote best ones. Anywhere that you can leave a review. If you DM me on Instagram at led2gold, and it's led.to.gold. If you DM me a screenshot that you have left a review of the show, and bonus points if you have left like a full-on caption type of review, I will donate $25 to any charity, any mutual aid, any food bank, things like that of your choosing. So the way that this is going to work is essentially, yes, you DM me a screenshot and then let me know where you would like me to donate. And if necessary, how to donate, like if that place has a Venmo or if it's a website, whatever it may be. I am so happy to do that. Of course, I am a teacher, so I don't know how far this will go or how far and wide this episode will reach people. I'm feeling financially stable, but I'm going to cap it at $500. So that is my, I suppose, gift for the time being. And if you want to match me in it, I feel like that would be so amazing and just a really nice way to kind of give back on a day where I think we as Americans should be focusing on kind of giving back and helping each other, helping our community, and trying to pick up some pieces from the last couple years. I mean, woof, we've been through it. So DM me at led2gold, led.to.gold. Leave a review, screenshot it, send it to me, and let me know where you want me to donate. And I will be doing that. $25 for each rating. Okay? Cool. I'm excited about this. I hope you guys are having a great day, and I love you all so much, and I am so excited for next episode. It's going to be my first interview with somebody, so I'm not going to spoil who it is yet, but check back 2 Mondays from now, January 30th, and we will have yet another episode that I just cannot wait to bring out to you guys. So see you then. In the meantime, take care of yourself. Okay. Love you. Bye.